Welcome to Harmony and Improvisation with Doub Pearce, a podcast dedicated to helping musicians of all levels to play better music. Join us in these upcoming episodes as we explore the ins and outs of major diatonic harmony. Visit us at harmonyimprov.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform. Partner with us at patreon.com/harmonyimprov. Welcome once again to Harmony and Improvisation. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome back to, I think this is episode 10 of the Harmony and Improvisation podcast / vidcast. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for being interested, and thanks for wanting to study and improve your knowledge of the language of music and some of the vocabulary and just the way that the language is structured. Looking at it much the same as you would look at the language of English or Spanish. I took Spanish in college. I did fairly well only because I had taken Latin in high school. But learning those fundamental parts of grammar, those fundamental parts of how a sentence is constructed, and understanding what those sounds were, boy, it was super helpful. In music as well, if you learn what these things sound like, learn what the elements of music sound like, it can really enhance your musicianship, whether you're a composer, a classical instrumentalist, a rock guitar player, and certainly if you're trying to play jazz or anything with more complex harmonies, the more you know, the easier it is going to for you to be able to see it on your instrument and to be able to reproduce it. Today, we're going to look at the other intervals that aren't in a major scale. Remember from the very beginning, there's only 12 notes, right? And a major scale contains 7 of them. So we're going to look at the relationship from C to the non-diatonic notes in the note set of C major. And this should be a very, very short podcast. I don't really want you to have to focus on this too much, other than to be very aware of it. This is informative only in that you don't have to do any rote memorization of it or anything. You just have to kind of understand that it's there. And the main reason is because these intervals are intervals between notes for sure. Recognizing these intervals is important. But understanding that they're going to show up in places that you might not expect them. In other words, if you're reading a chord chart, for instance, you're going to start to recognize that these intervals play a part in all kinds of chords, whether they be major 7, minor 7, dominant 7. And a lot of times we call them altered extensions or non-diatonic color notes, things of that nature. So let's get right to it. Starting with a C again, we're going to look at 5 different notes, and we're going to look at what they might be called, whether you're playing just notes between an interval of between 2 notes, or whether you're seeing that interval inserted in a chord of some type. All right? So first one is we're going to look at from C to C sharp. Again, there's a semitone, half step, minor second. It's got several names. In chords, a lot of times, if you look down below, you'll see that it is a C sharp or a D flat. The enharmonic spelling can be used either way. And in a C-type chord, you might see that as a flat 9, or what's called a flat 2. And some of our modes of major will have that flat 2 in it, as well as other modes that we'll study in more episodes down the line. Semitone, C to C sharp, can be called a flat 9 or a flat 2. Okay? C to D sharp. Now, those of you who have your ears fairly developed and go, oh, C to C sharp is just the same thing and harmonically as C to E flat, what you see in the graphic. And that's a minor third. Why would you just call that a minor third? Well, yeah, sure. If you're playing a minor chord, that certainly is a minor third. But what if you're not? What if you're playing a dominant C7 chord and that note shows up? Well, in that case, it can be called a sharp 9. And so that sharp 9 is a very common altered extension to a dominant chord. So certainly it can be called a flat 3 if you're looking at it as a minor chord. Sorry, gosh. But remember this sound. That's a sharp 9, dominant sharp 9 chord. C to F sharp. Oh, what is that? In classical school, that's called the devil's interval, because it's called a tritone, and it sounds awkward and weird, right? But guess what? That interval is the most, okay, I'm going to make a statement and I'm going to hear back about it, but that's okay. In my opinion, that's the most influential or strong interval in all of music, because that interval is contained in every dominant chord or 5 chord in a key. And we haven't reached this yet, but in the key of C, the 5 chord is a G. And it wants to go from 5 to 1. It wants to draw back really hard. And it always wants to go. But when you turn that into a G7, tritone, oh geez, the devil's in it, right? So that G7 is even a stronger pull, easy for you to say. So that this tritone wants to go to a C. You hear what happens is the B is pulling really hard to a C, and the F is pulling really hard to an E, and the C and the E are the 1 and 3 of a C major chord. So, but guess what? That tritone also wants to pull another direction. If you pick a chord, a tritone away from a C, that's an F sharp, this tritone wants to pull to an F sharp. So that tritone is the reversed 3 and 7. I'm not covering this very well. That tritone also wants to pull to F sharp major, because this tritone can move from here to there, which is G to C, or here to here, which is actually C sharp 7 to F sharp major. So that tritone has a lot of power, a lot of pull. And you're going to learn in a short period of time that a fully diminished chord has 3 tritones, actually, or 2 tritones. We'll just call it 2. And those tritones really pull. So a diminished chord is very powerful. Okay, so anyway, enough about tritones. Let's look at it. Let's look at the chord. Let's look at the chord values or extensions that this tritone can become. If I'm playing C major, well, that F sharp can become a sharp 11 in either a dominant chord or in what I'm playing right now, which is a C major 7. So that sharp 11 is actually a tritone away from the root name of that chord. You can call it sharp 4, because the 11 and the 4 are the same thing. Some people call it a sharp 4, some people call it a sharp 11, and people will call it a flat 5 because in essence, it is a flat 5. C to F sharp is the flatted flat 5. Flat 5 shows up in a lot of different kinds of chords, dominant chords, diminished chords, minor 7 flat 5s. So yeah, anyway, flat 5. That's that interval. C to G sharp. That interval is called an augmented fifth or a sharped 5. Again, it shows up in major 7 chords, dominant 7 chords, and certainly dominant chords. Maybe I said that, dominant 7 chords, yeah. But the sharp 5 exists in what's called a whole tone scale, which is a bunch of whole tones stacked on top of one another. And one of those is a sharp 5. Some people call it a flat 6, which exists in a couple of modes of major on minor chords. It also exists on a 5 chord in melodic minor as what's called a flat 13. So that interval can be called sharp 5, flat 6, flat 13. All right, one more. C to A sharp or B flat, that's a flat 7. Or it's part of a dominant 7 chord. I'm playing a C7 right now. And that interval is a flat 7, A sharp or B flat. Then back to C. All right, I got lost on the whole diminished thing, the tritone and stuff. I hope that wasn't too much, but it's just added information. Again, this is not something you need to rote memorize. You just need to be aware of it because as we move through the next few podcasts, this is going to become very helpful information. If I were you guys, I might on these because the prior podcast, which was the intervals in major, those are easy because we've been doing major scales now for quite a while. But these, you might want to just get used to these sounds. Because those intervals, that's kind of all there is. I mean, there's 12 notes. We'll find exceptions because we'll call things tenths and stuff like that as things get into the upper registers, but or into the next octave beyond your 1 octave note set. But anyway, these are they're good. They're good things to have in your ears so that you can recognize them when you hear them in a chord or in a melodic line. Okay, that's enough for today. Thank you again for bearing with my long, windy explanations about things. Good night, next time.